1985, about 10 years ago. We went through a number of drummers, even including a drum machine. We settled with a real human drummer in 1990 called Aaron Hewson, who's been with us for the last 5 years. We've been around for that length of time on a number of different record labels, from Phantom Records in 88 to Dominator in 89, who we've stayed with. We've just recently left Dominator. We've just signed with Ra Records, who are going to put out the next album.
The Mark of Cain started rumbling the stages in mid-1984, although it started long before that. The Mark of Cain were formed as a punk rock group in Adelaide in the early 80s, with the original lineup consisting of Rod Archer on lead vocals, Gavin Atchison on drums, ex-Spiral Collapse, John Scott on lead guitar, also from the punk band Spiral Collapse, and his younger brother Kim Scott on bass guitar. Their name references the Hermann Hesse's novel Demian, written 1919, which in turn recalls the Genesis story regarding the Mark of Cain. John had read Demian, which featured the verse, "A loner who thought his dark feelings were there for anyone to see as he walked down the street, the Mark of Cain." Atchison and John's earlier group, Spiral Collapse, broke up as John was concentrating on his university course. He also wanted a new, harder sound, and tensions were starting to grow with the band's lead singer. John assisted his younger brother Kim to develop his bass guitar skills and met Archer at one of Spiral Collapse's last gigs.
Think of Adelaide bands and the kind of music you guys play. Mark of Cain is certainly one of the bands that I personally think of as well. And then to sit your band amongst all the other bands that have been inducted into that Hall of Fame as well, you know, that's another great thing to have.
It's weird, but when you think about all the other bands seem to have like at least a hit that you can hum. It's not really the case with us, but you know, that's okay.
So was the reason behind this whole tour around that then, or did you plan on doing this tour anyway? Or
no, where the whole idea was you know, once we felt that COVID was less prevalent and you know people could go out safely, we were going to do Ill at Ease. And I think whatever happened, I just recall that we probably would have tried to do Ill at Ease this time this year. I think it got really difficult suddenly to get some shows booked or something. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but then we got told that we were being asked to, you know, like the induction, and so we said, oh, well, okay.
Before long, Archer had left the group, and John Scott took on the lead vocal role, and the group has remained a trio ever since. The Scott brothers have been the core of the band since its incarnation, which has featured 10 different drummers over the years, with the ultra-tight Eli Green smashing the skins with the boys for the last 5 or so years, and whenever they're on the road now. Their style has been likened to that of Helmet and the Rollins Band, yet this band predates both groups. Their brutal style of uncompromising metal is like a punch to the face, and their live shows are even tighter than the recordings. Ian McFarlane, an Australian musicologist, described the band's penchant for militaristic imagery and lyric themes, to say nothing of the members' close-cropped haircuts and their marine-styled looks, only added to the sense of desperation and solitude displayed in the band's music. The trio's songs often explore themes of betrayal, anger, resilience, desperation, solitude, and salvation. Their lyrics delve into the darker aspects of the human experience, reflecting the band's post-punk roots and their dedication to a more intense, brutal, and unique sound. The band's music is bolstered by its military imagery and lyrical themes, which only add to the sense of desperation and intensity displayed in their live shows. As a band musically, it's hard to actually describe how well all the parts just fit together. They just do. Their syncopation is something to be in awe of, and Eli Green is one hell of a so-called fill-in drummer. Kim Scott's bass lines rumble and crack like heavy military fire. They sit with sniper precision on top of Green's drums. John Scott's heavily distorted guitar tone sits perfectly, ranging from at times lush to otherwise razor-sharp. John Scott's generally brash and barked vocal lines are delivered effortlessly and commands attention and respect.
Well, I could have been me, and it could have been you. Voices in the darkness, while shadows I once knew. Well, I could have been the one, the only one. I could have been the one. I have changed. Well, I have changed. I have changed. Well, I have changed. I have changed. I have changed. I have changed. Well, I have changed.
Although they have only released 5 original albums and 1 remixes album, they have gained a cult following, a dedicated fan base. Henry Rollins was quoted as saying that the Mark of Cain were his favorite band. Not a bad honor to have from one of the biggest pioneers in underground heavy music. Guest programmers on ABC's Rage like Henry Rollins, Lydia Lunch, and Sepultura played the Battlesick music video. Rollins praised the band, saying there were bands in the USA that were trying to play that kind of music but were years behind tmoc. Henry Rollins would go on to produce Ill at Ease, the band's most popular album to date. They gave the world a taste of what they were in for with the debut album Battlesick in 1989. Battlesick was greeted with critical acclaim and helped to break the Mark of Cain outside of Adelaide. Songs such as You Are Alone, The Last Judgment, and The Hammer were intense explorations of the human condition and ordinary heroes who walk amongst us. Normal, everyday people who, out of exceptional situations, show an ability to power on through or push on through, Scott says. Recorded exactly 1 year after Battlesick, The Unclaimed Prize, the trio's second album, is a masterpiece of power, groove, and intensity. Heavily influenced by the work of pre-grunge outfit Big Black, it shows a band making great leaps forward not only in artistic expression, but in production standards also. Recorded in Adelaide with engineer Stuart Sheldon, The Unclaimed Prize is another self-produced effort. This time, however, the bare-bones approach of the first album is replaced by layers of guitar overdubs, courtesy of John Scott, atop a pummeling new rhythm section comprising John's brother Kim and new drummer Campbell Robinson. Feature tracks on The Unclaimed Prize include the ferocious Fire in Her Heart and the unrelenting UCD. Extra tracks include Cripple and Shadows, both produced by Steve Albini. Also featured is the original recording of live favorite Tell Me, later re-recorded for the band's classic third album, Ill at Ease. Ill at Ease was the third full-length studio album released and the most successful for the band. It was released in 1995 and, as mentioned earlier, produced by Henry Rollins. First Time and LMA were released as singles from the album. The Contender, Interloper, You Let Me Down, Hindsight, and the iconic Point Man were remixed for release on the following album, Rock and Roll. Andrew McMillan of The Australian said, "At times, the third album by this Adelaide hard rock trio feels like the heaviest set of songs ever recorded, both musically and lyrically. An unrelenting work of precise arrangement and machine-like performance, it grips you from the very first note and doesn't let up for 55 minutes. The band's fourth release, This, is an album that is complete in its entirety. The Mark of Cain have shown no sign of throwing in the towel on their prolific brand of hardcore. Every track on this album is a standout, with Familiar Territory leading into Retaliate and into Second Hander. It just keeps going with Let Chaos Rule Supreme, Token, Sleep, then One Day Late in December, before finishing the album off with Knocking, Outsider, Lockdown, and Cut 'Em Down. I mean, seriously, find me a better all-round album than this. There was an 11-year wait for the songs of the third and fifth album. Unsurprisingly, it was the Mark of Cain in all its intense, powerful, and unyielding glory. From the moment of Kim Scott's pounding bass introduction to Barkhammer, to John Scott's abrasive metallic guitar melodies, to Stanier's tough-as-nails percussive attack, this is an album that commands attention. Scott explores the same territory he's always found inspiration: betrayal, anger, resilience, and salvation. Avenger is threatening, a man waging war against an innate desire to lapse into psychosis. Like the protagonist in a heated emotional dialectic, it's only one step away from absolute implosion, and John Scott is doing his best to keep it all together. Their discography is as tight as their live shows, and if you ever get the chance to catch these absolute legends of Australian music, do yourself a favor, strap yourself in, and enjoy the ride. In the meantime, have a dig through their albums and see what you can find. Drop a comment below and tell us your favorite Mark of Cain song or album, and what live shows you've seen. And make sure you subscribe to the Heavy Metal Cartel for more progressive rock, punk, and heavy metal videos.